Welcome back to the continuation. This is a live stream for those who don't know, and as we recapping right now, that is sure enough the Shogun of Harlem. And the character was mimicked after Rick James' image, based on the fact that Rick James was supposed to play this character. But Rick James is who they wanted to put in here, but Rick James just did not have the acting ability to be able to pull off this role. So they kept him in the theme of a Rick James type of martial artist in this film. So with this opportunity passing, it also altered the song Glow. Like if you listen to the album Glow, you will hear the actual instrumental. I can't play it on here, of course. But there's an actual 3 versions of the song. There's a reprise that was the gonna be the score for the movie The Last Dragon. That's about 1 minute and 30 something seconds. So when this continued, Party All the Time with him and Eddie Murphy was saving him because the album didn't do what Rick and the studio hoped it would do. So in a last ditch attempt, Rick goes in the studio mad at the Barry Gordy now. Man, Barry, man, y'all ain't doing nothing with my album, man. I told you I needed a new video. And y'all ain't pushing out my new video. Y'all ain't talking, man. Y'all ain't answering my money. Y'all worried about these other artists who ain't bringing in no money. Rick James bringing money, baby. I'm making, man, my music is legendary. It's classic. It's timeless. You putting out all this bubblegum garbage. Man, I tell you what we're going to do, man. I want a big production. I want some lights. I want everything going. I'm going to be riding a motorcycle. That sound like Purple Rain again. That sound like Prince. Rick, you don't ride motorcycle. Rick James can do whatever the hell Rick James want to do. I'm going to get me a motorcycle. And I want you to film it. I only need to ride it for 5 seconds. So they was like, Rick gonna kill himself. Don't let him get on that motorcycle. So what they did, Barry Gordy and them end up calling in a favor. And the favor was, we had to save Rick James from Rick James. And we got to find a way to promote this album. So they were writing a script on NBC because they were friends with Mr.T. And Mr.T was hot at the time, Rocky, and now he's on the A-Team. So Isaac Hayes was going to be on this show. So they said, oh yeah, now we can find a way to get Rick involved. Rick James on the A-Team was negotiated by Barry Gordy. And when Barry Gordy got this out here, this brought Rick James' first professional acting piece ever. Now, here's the problem. Rick, well, let's just say Rick wasn't really on the ball like he should. Uh-oh, sorry about that. Rick wasn't really on the ball like he should have been. And what I mean by that, I mean Rick wasn't like at the level he should have been for the character he was playing. It's his first acting gig. You know, you're really excited for Rick. You wanted to see him knock it out the park, but Rick was a little too excited, and he came in there being Rick James. You know, he just like, look, I'm gonna be Rick James, and that's about it. Nothing's gonna happen.
Railroaded into serving 10 years for manslaughter.
So let me tell you how this went down. Rick gets into the trailer, right? Him and Dwight Schultz. That's the guy that played Murdoch, right? Murdoch love him. Murdoch love the music, everything. Murdoch is like, man, I love you, Rick James. You bad, man. You could do this, man. You could do that, man. Oh, you great, man. So he kicking back like, man, we're going to chill in here, man. We're going to play some tunes, man. Stay in here, man. Chill out with your boy Rick James, man. Come on, man. Pull up a chair. So Mr. T, Mr. T gets there late because he had to do some interviews and everything else. This was at the time, this was a really big deal. And so they had no real dialogue for Rick. So what they did was they played the entire video for Glow and put that as part of the theme for Rick James. The script is Rick James wants to hire the A-Team to help Isaac Hayes, who's been locked up in jail for like 10 years for something that's supposed to be a bogus charge. But we gonna get to that. Now, here's the thing. Rick James is in the trailer, and he ain't met Mr. T yet. They ain't came on the set. So Mr. T comes in there. He's got on all his jewelry, all his big gold chains. He comes in there, and he got the earrings with the feathers on them. And he come in there, and Rick James, hey, T, what's up, man? Hey, how you doing, brother? And then he could smell the marijuana, the reefer in the air, in the trailer. And Dwight Schultz is already in there chilling with him, laid up. And Mr. T didn't kind of like him in real life. And that was the whole thing, that they really had a beef. And Mr. T's like, no, I really don't. He just don't deal with him. Because Murdoch was really out there. So Mr. T wasn't about, he got the Say No to Drugs program and all this stuff going on. And Rick in there smoking reefer. And he smelled it, and he was like, look here, brother. Look, what you do in your personal life, we would like if you don't, do that on the set. This, other people got to work here. So if you're going to, smoke your products, I would advise don't do it on the property, in the premises, because the security will throw you out. Man, I'm Rick James. Ain't no security going to touch me. Man, you tripping. Come on, T. You know about reefer, man. You from Chicago. Man, Rick still wasn't honoring. Rick wasn't saying, okay, I don't want to step on no toes. So T went and told the people, the producers and everything, man, I think Rick gonna be a problem. So I don't know how we gonna film this. And they was like, man, it's only 2 days. Like, we only got 2 days to shoot this. It's not going to take all day. Rick James come out there to do his set. And Rick is, focused. He been studying these lines that they want him to say. Rick came out there. Rick came out to do the lines. So when Rick came out to do the lines, he was all excited. He was ready to go. So Rick said the lines, and he was, messing up, and it wasn't sounding right. They was like, all right, we're going to do the same thing over. And Rick was paranoid. So Rick wanted to smoke a cigarette. So he was like, can I just smoke a cigarette? I mean, I am Rick James. I got to be Rick James, man. So Rick's reading the script. And Rick like, nah, man, I can't do that, man. I don't feel no heat from that. They was like, what? I don't feel no heat, man. Come on, man. Rick James ain't going to say nothing like that, man. Just let me. I know what y'all want to do, but just let me do it Rick James way. Let me be Rick James. I'm playing Rick James. Who can play Rick James better than Rick James, baby? Just let me be me. Let me get a cigarette. So he gets a cigarette, comes in the room, cigarette lit, and they was like, okay, you can smoke the cigarette, but you cannot inhale. So you could just puff it and blow the smoke out, but you can't inhale, or we might get fined. So they worked around that. So now they altered the script and just let Rick go. They just let Rick go. They like, Rick, do anything you want to do, Rick.
Please guilty. And
so Rick job in this script was to deliver. This was his main line in the entire movie. Rick's job was to land this plane. All Rick had to do was get this delivery. And all they was doing, and why they wanted to do this, is because they were like, okay, we want Rick James to perform Super Freak. And they were Super Freak. Man, I don't want to play no Super Freak, man. I want to talk about my new record, Glow. And they said, well, look, man, we got to do Super Freak. So he was upset about that. Because he was like, man, I want to promote my music, man. They trying to take Rick James out. They want Rick James to be who don't like rock and roll or something. So Rick James breaks it down, the charges, in Rick James fashion. Rick is like, man, he got railroaded. Here's Rick.
He admitted he fell asleep at the wheel. And he admitted that he hit the girl.
He admitted he fell asleep at the wheel. He admitted he hit the girl. These charges are bull. He admitted he fell asleep at the wheel. He admitted he hit the girl. Like what's the problem? I will give you the exact quote from Rick James that they had on the show. I will let you read it in your own words. Before he got sent for manslaughter, that's nothing. The judge gave him a full sentence, man, because he was rock and roll, loud music, and all that silly nonsense. But that was way back then. And he pleaded guilty, and then he admitted he fell asleep at the wheel, and he admitted he hit the girl, but he was on no drugs. He didn't have any alcohol in his system. He's a special cat, man, and he took the full account. I don't know what it is, man, but something happened. He's into something. I really want to help him. Rick James. So Rick oh my God. So Rick came in there to lay the lines down in Rick James format. See, that's what people don't realize. When Rick come in there and lay it down, and once Isaac Hayes got there, him and Isaac was talking, and they want to do the song themselves. Now they done got Isaac Hayes is supposed to perform a whole nother song. Now Rick James and him want to do a song together, like this blues song thing they working on. So this became a whole re-rate. If you was a writer on this episode, you was like, God dog it, now we changing the script again? Yes, we're changing the script again. And then they on the scene where he's supposed to be talking to Mr. T. So the whole thing was like, Mr. T was just like, look at me, man, follow me through the whole process, and you'll be all right. Talking to Rick. And he kept calling him, man, come on, T. It's BA, brother. It's BA. Remember, I'm BA. So when you talk to me, you only got to say it once. Just say BA. So Rick's trying to go off memory, and now he's trying to go off you just being Rick James and going through it and delivering it, because they can't get him to to formulate this script to sound like Rick James. They can't write like Rick James. So Rick is trying to deliver it to him and tell it to him in the best way he can.
I understand that, VA, but not after all this time. There's just no CJ without music. I mean, he's a reflection of his own music. Even the stuff he recorded on his little tape recorder we gave him, man. You should hear this stuff, man. I mean, you should just listen to it. I've been on him a long time. He's my main man, and I need your help. That's the bottom line. I need your help.
So that's all Rick James had to do, is deliver his lines, man. He had about 2 minutes worth of lines, and it kept going from there. Rick didn't cut it down because it became a big party, a concert. Rick was like, man, let's get it cracking. You know, once the party was going on, they had the concert that they was doing outside in front of the prison yard, because something went down when they finna break the man out of the jail. So it just kept going from there and escalating. And Rick is still smoking weed in the trailer. So Mr. T want to talk to him about it. Because this whole thing was to promote Rick James. So they made it look like Tina Turner, everybody was going to be there, but it ended up being just Rick James showing up because it was only going to be Rick James anyway. That's all the show was going to be able to afford. So Isaac Hayes is there. And the Rick James on tour, there's Rick. They had him he's supposed to be on the prison doing a charity concert thing, whatever, so they could trick the guy. Now the guy finna try to kill Rick James. So now they trying to kill Rick James and Isaac Hayes together. So this was a crazy episode and a crazy part. A lot of people don't even remember or know that this existed. And that's Uncle Phil. Y'all remember Uncle Phil? That was Uncle Phil as the security guard trying to take them out. He looked like T. Grizzly. So those were the good old days. But they had a concert right outside there. They had a big old concert. Rick did Super Freak. Everybody was going crazy. And Reefer and all this stuff was going out there. So Mr. T didn't like it. You know, he ain't like this, you know, because he's got a Say No to Drugs campaign. So he can't be around no Reefer and all this. So Mr. T had to go talk to Rick again. And he had Isaac Hayes there. He was like, look here, brothers. I understand you guys are talented musicians. But you got to understand, I'm about these kids. And I don't want these kids out here on these drugs. Rick just rolled. They like, Rick just rolled his eyes. Like, come on, T, man. you got, man, the cameras ain't rolling, man. Come on, man. You can't be on this 24 hours. Come on, T. Man, just chill with that. I'm Rick James, man. Enjoy yourself. Man, I ain't got time for that, man. We all here trying to, everybody having a good time out here, man. We playing the blues, man. We got the funk going, man. And you coming in here, man, messing up the whole vibe. Man, I thought T was cool. So Mr. T was, man, Mr. T had him all lit. So Mr. T is mad. So he calling security and all them. He was like, man, we done filming. We need to get them in here and shut this down. Call the state police if you got to. Tell them they got 15 minutes to wrap it up. And then we're going to shut the whole thing down. It's kids out here. They don't need to be around this. You know, I got a campaign. Say no to drugs. You know, I'm about these kids. And no kids need to be seeing no stuff like this. This is an outdoor event. We got people out here with families and kids. Man, these dudes, these white dudes got their kids with them, the wife. They all super freak. They getting loose. They ain't caring about nothing Mr. T talking about. There ain't nobody complaining but Mr. T. So after it was over, it was like one of the most famous episodes on the 18. That one, the Hulk Hogan one, but that was like one of the most famous episodes besides the first episode they ever had. And I think that's the episode Mr. T get beat up. That was the first time, like, whoa, Mr. T got beat up on the first episode. He came busting through a door, boom, and they just said something in Spanish, and the Mexican guy just walked in the room and just started throwing Mr. T around the entire restaurant. And that shocked everybody in the project. We thought Mr. T couldn't be beaten. I pity the fool. Because Mr. T is from the Robert Taylor home. in Chicago, like us, like me. So he stayed right over there. The whole Robert Taylor with the Dunbar. And Mr. T had to save his brother's life. That's a hood story that I can't even probably tell. But Mr. T brother was in the gang. His younger brother. And Mr. T came up to the school to save his life. Because them vice lords was finna tear him to shreds. They were ready to go to war. And Mr. T came up there and he scared them dudes. He was putting up a front. And got in them gang members' face and told them, like, don't touch his brother and stuff, man. He was like, man, Mr. T, he saved him. He's like, I'll give him that, because they was like, nah, don't pull it with T, man. Don't pull it with T. They was some high schools and they was debating on should they go. Like, should we go even with Mr. T here? Nah, let's just back down. But they was still ready to pull it. They was like, Mr. T came with it. Oh no, this is like right before the 18. This is like Rocky 3 when he was like wrestling Mr. T back then. He was just going to the top. So he was kind of big. And T would come through the neighborhood anyway. He would give like food, like candy and all kind of stuff. Mr. T used to do all kind of stuff in the projects, hands on. Like he'll be there. He opened up a big truck one time, was giving us posters. It would say no to drugs, all kind of stuff, bags full of food and everything, candy, all kind of stuff. I'm like, man, he'd be like, you got your bag, now go on, kid. Don't come back now, don't come back and get two. Come on now, we got to make sure everybody get one. And people be coming back in here, come on, man, I already seen you. Come on, now go on, now let somebody else get one. You already got one. No, man, I ain't get one. You know, people running that scam. Nah, T didn't have no security. He just had helpers. Like people were helping. He'll be right there on the truck with him doing stuff. He was real hands-on. He was a real positive, like a real dude. Like it wasn't nothing fake about Mr. T. Now, the fact that him and Rick had that ordeal, that was just on them. But anyway, that didn't help the album. Everybody liked the episode, but it was just like they wasted any time of money and energy trying to promote that. But it was a good thing for Rick because it was his first acting gig. He was credited as an actor for the first time ever. Rick James was credited as an actor. Well, Rick James gonna need a whole lot of people to. Rick Ross will need a whole lot of people to vouch for him. But at that time, Rick was he had just gotten like back better. Like he was like real messed up on drugs in like 84. So in 85, he was back. Like he was still got high, smoked some weed and stuff, but Rick was more in his senses in 85. In 84, he was gone. Like, gone. So in 85, he was back to like, I'm rejuvenated. I'm back to this music. But it was depressing him that everybody just want to hear Prince, Madonna, Michael Jackson. Those were the three major artists. And the record companies were going through restructuring because Prince dominated the radio. Michael Jackson, anytime he breathed on anything, it dominated the radio. But Michael Jackson didn't make a lot of songs. Michael didn't believe in that system. He believed in not oversaturating the market. Michael was a very smart man when it came to business. He knew about the market and how to promote his music and how it should be out there and be valued more if you make less. If you make two more, it loses its value. The songs lose their value. People don't have a chance to really connect to the songs. And Michael be like, well, that's a waste of all that work. Prince don't care. Prince is like, I care about the music. It's perfect. That's the way I wanted it to sound. It's there. It's done. Put it out. Throw it out. Fans will find it. You know, that's kind of how I am. My thing is, look, put it out. The fans will find it. I ain't got time to dress it up. I ain't got no time to put a pretty bow on it. I don't want to mix it down. It's here. It's dope. Throw it out. They will believe me. The people gonna find it. They gonna love it. He ain't about making no like marketing scheme to make it go millions and millions of dollars. He think that's somebody else's job. So that's what those were the differences between the two. So when Michael's songs was in rotation, it was the same songs he had 3 years prior, before he even made Bad. They were still playing songs from the Thriller album for 3 years. So for 3 years, Rick James had to endure listening to this while he's trying to make new work. So music started to change in '85. More hard rock was coming in there. Funk was dying out. And funk was being rearranged with pop. And it was like a rock feel to it. And everybody was transforming to something new. So he's like, man, this breakdancing is coming in, these breakdance type beats. People are using that with rock and funk and all this scratching. So the music was changing. And Rick wanted to change with it. So if Rick saw somebody that was hot coming out, Rick had to do it. And Rick went off the deep end. And in '86, Rick James came out with an album called The Flag. Do y'all remember that? Rick James, The Flag album? How you doing, Mr. Moore? That's Rick James, The Flag. That's his very next album. He went from the orange hair, he went back to black, he went into this red, black, and green, The Flag. Rick then changed his whole look from 1 year to the next. He thought changing his hair to that orange was bad luck. Rick had to go back to the black. But at this point, he was about black power. He was about, look, man, this is about black power. It's about that flag. You know, we got to represent the red, black, and green. So Rick was doing his thing with the flag. But at this point, the music wasn't really connecting with the people. And right when he getting ready to drop this, all they talking about and promoting is Prince's new album. Prince had like Sign of the Times or something like that out, or whatever album he had out. It was all about Prince. Morris Day and the Time, Prince. And Madonna. And Unity. Rick was talking about bringing people together. Yeah, Rick James was woke. Rick has always been woke. And that's just tapping into something that y'all gonna hear about. And I'm gonna have to tell y'all about Wesley Snipes versus Rick James. That's in another story that's coming up. This when Rick got out of prison. But we getting ahead of ourselves. Let's stay here with the flag right now. So the flag comes out, and Rick is a little messed up. He run into Mr.T. And Mr.T, that means he was very aware of things. Rick James would travel somewhere, learn something about the place he's at, and it'll become an album. So right now he was hanging out with these brothers talking about, man, we got to get back to the motherland and all this, and talking about, and that's how unity came up. Because he was hanging out with the Conscious Brothers at that time, and Rick was smoking with them, and the next thing you know, talking about the revolution and politics, next thing you know, here come the Flag album. Red, black, and green. See, Rick wrote from the heart. Whatever was on Rick's mind at that time, that was his theme. It was never a set out plan. Oh no, it was a whole different thing. I will get to the Wesley Snipes one. Don't worry about it. You're going to find out what happened when those two met. But anyway, he ran into Mr.T. Mr.T was, how you doing, brother? He was like, Mr.T, man, I need you to promote my album, man. I need you to tell people in your interview, man, go check out that Rick James album, man. Go grab that flag, man. Tell them, man, we all about that unity, man. Because I'm going to do a video, man. I want everybody to be in it, man. I want you in there. We talking about unity, man. Everybody coming together. All the brothers, man. He's like, man, that's what I'm talking about. Mr. T was, all right, man. I'm going to do that, man. You just got to come to my event. I'm going to have the thing, man, for the kids, man. You know, ain't no smoking and none of that stuff going on. Oh, man, you know, I'm good, man. I got you. So I don't know what happened, but it never went down. Rick never went to the event. Mr. T never came to his thing. So I don't know who blew who off first, but it never went down. So Rick was hurt because Rick felt betrayed some type of way, like Mr. T lied to him and let him down. So he was just telling people Mr. T's a phony. And man, Mr. T was mad as a bear. And that's what Eddie Murphy is mad. I wouldn't be messing with Mr. T. He's like, I don't even do jokes about Mr. T no more. Are you kidding? You better let that go, man. Rick didn't care about none of that. That's one thing about Rick James. He was no punk. Nobody could say anybody punked Rick James. Rick James was no punk. What you said? Oh, I thought you was making a statement. Oh, Real Brothers need a show. Yeah, a lot of people said we need a Real Brother podcast. The problem is me and T would have done it, but T just, I don't know, man. T, one day he cool, and the next day he'd have a problem with it. You be like, I just told you what it was. Yeah, but man, now I'm mad. What you mad about? He the closest brother. Like, if there was a such thing as a brother, no, me and him, like, we like friends. Like, we've been friends since like 93. But if I go somewhere, roll with somebody, he's somebody I know I could take. You know, that's somebody that could roll with you. And you ain't got to worry about him. And vice versa. Yeah, very reliable. It's very rare you find a reliable friend. No, George Clinton didn't have to make new music. They were still around. Parliament was still making, doing shows, but people didn't care about no new music because the times had changed and they didn't change with it. They were still doing their same old, same old. That's why when The Chronic came out, they just basically took George Clinton album and redid the whole album. The Chronic ain't nothing but Parliament. It's the old songs all over. People just bought the same records all over again. And it sold 5 million records. That wasn't nothing but Parliament. Yep. Rapping on Parliament tracks. Instead of the P-Funk, they called it the G-Funk. Rapping on rapping on them funk beats. But when Rick James came out like this, everybody was doing it at this time. Everything was red, black, and green. Rick James was the first one on it, though. He was the first one. Then came Public Enemy, and then everybody behind him. But when Rick James came out with it, he didn't get no push. Ice Cube was, you talking about why was he pro-black? Her criminal minded bit the whole bit. Well, Public Enemy produced his first 2 albums. That's why. I'm always tired, dude. I work so much. I stay tired. I'm addicted to working. I feel like if I stop working, I'm going to die. Yeah. Well, see, the thing was, Rick James accused Larry Blackman of stealing his funk style. And they had been out for a long time and ain't nobody paid them no attention. They were in New York, and that's a whole nother hood story. I mean, a Rick James story I'm going to get into. But we'll get into that. That's a whole different thing. I kind of want to shut this down so people can go back and listen to it and get caught up to the whole story. But we'll get into that too. That's all coming up. Yeah, he liked that song Unity because he was all into the red, black, and green. Then he felt like people bit it. And we're going to go into all that. Rick James is one of the first people to come out with all that red, black, and green. On that whole album, The Flag. That's what I was going to tell people that. That's right, Skippy. They were the New York City Players back in the 70s. And then people got in conflict with them and the Ohio Players. So they had to switch their name and they ended up becoming Cameo. But they were making albums way back in the 70s all the way through before they had their breakout album in 86. That Word Up is the cold word. You mean it when you hear bring your body my beard and all you ugly DJs and ain't you fly. You got to be a reason and we know the reason why. And I put on them ass and act real cool. But you got to realize that you're acting like fools. If it's music, we can use it and we can damn. We ain't got no time for no romance, no romance, no romance, no romance for me. My baby, tell me what's the word up. Y'all got me going into this already. Let me stop right now. But let me stop this right now. We'll get this. The whole stuff is just stay tuned.